Hello, my name is Andy Jenks, and I'd like to welcome you to FNRM 3131 Intro to GIS and Natural Resource Management for Spring 2020. Now, I can be reached at 215 Green Hall or at ajenks@umn.edu. Now, I'm assisted by my colleague, Paul Bolstead, and he's in 301J Green Hall up on the third floor, and he's at P. Bolstead at umn.edu. Now, I have office hours from 1 to 1:30 on Mondays and Tuesdays in Green 215, and I'm also available from 8 to 9 p.m. on Wednesday evenings via Google Hangouts for the online class people, students. Now, the objectives, what we're talking about briefly in this video, is a bit about mechanics and grading and a tiny bit about content and motivation. And what we're doing in our class is that we're trying to introduce you to a vocabulary, methods, and technology to help solve geospatial problems and help analyze and solve geospatial problems. And that we're trying to do that with our textbook that helps us develop helps you develop a conceptual understanding, because it's that conceptual understanding that'll carry you through and may help you be more resilient as the software changes, because software changes every year. All sorts of new products, new things come out. But if you've got a good conceptual understanding of GIS and geospatial thinking and geospatial analysis process, that you'll be able to be very resilient and adapt as you go through your career using GIS as a supporting technology. Now, we're trying to help you organize, and organize is a big part of it, and then solve spatial problems. And we're doing so, we're helping you understand a toolkit, or helping you build a toolkit or a set of tools, and we've got some best practices, obviously, that we want to help show you in these tools. Now, we are moving, hopefully with these tools, you can move to some sort of predictive knowledge. And that's what the hope is of using GIS, is to apply GIS in a way that can help not just describe, but could actually predict. Now, in this particular class, it's offered online and in person. And the class is just the same. It's the same class, the same text, the same tests, the same everything. Between the online and in-person. Now, the reason we do the in-person is because some students really want that structure, and other students can deal with the flexibility of the online. But it's the same material. And you can switch back and forth between the class, between online and in-person at will, and you don't need to change your registration. But it's all based around the textbook that was written for this class by Paul Bolstead. And it is the core of the class and the basis of our exams and our conceptual knowledge. Now, we have labs in our lab process, lab exercises that we do in our in-person lab session, or you can do at home by following the instructions and using your computer at home, that apply these concepts. So the labs really support the concepts. And that this online in-person is something that's should be very flexible for you. So you pretty well do the class the way you want and flip back and forth. Students, for example, might work at home where they can have one particular concept, and then on another one they've got some questions and come into the lab, come into the lecture, and get their questions answered. And that's probably the best way to get the most thorough understanding. I'm happy to answer questions on email or try and handle it through Google Hangouts. But coming into the lab and the lecture really is a good fallback for you if you need extra help, or you want to more thoroughly understand the material. So either way works, and the core of the course is the textbook. So if you want the best advice about what to do in the class, is read the book, and the next best advice is read the book again, because it's the center of the class. And the textbook is the GIS Fundamentals, 6th edition. Now, Paul started the book when we started teaching the class in 99, 2000, and he's up to the 6th edition with it, and it's used at over 400 or 500 colleges and universities around the world as an introductory text. It's very well priced. because he self-published it, and so it's been widely accepted as a fundamental GIS textbook, and it will serve you well to keep the textbook and use it. It's good concepts. It's not step-by-step instruction on how to do something with a particular software. It's focused on the concepts of GIS, which will be continuing into the future. The software changes left and right. Now, the software we're using for this class is the most modern, most widely accepted commercial software in the industry. It's ArcGIS for a company in Redlands, California, Esri, E-R-S-I, and that company was founded by a graduate of the university in our landscape architecture program, Jack Dangermond. And this software is the leading software for our industry. Now, there is other products, and I don't want to say that this is the only product, but this is the best one for our instruction, and it's widely used within the DNR, within the Forest Service, within the Park Service, within various commerce and industry, states and county are using this. This is the main commercial product. Now, the way you can use this ArcGIS is coming into our Skoke lab, and we have lab sessions on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday in Skoke 35, or you can use it through the virtual connection, which would be using a browser, tapping into university computers and running it that way, and that would allow you to use it both with a Mac or a Windows computer at home. And you would install a little piece of software, and there's instructions on the web page about that. Installing a little piece of software that allows your browser to access this apps to go. And the third approach is to actually install the software directly on your computer and really work independently of any connection. And that really requires a Windows computer only. So you want to have a fairly modern, new Windows computer to do that. But most students really do the Citrix apps to go. That seems to be the best, most convenient for most students. But the important thing is ArcGIS Pro. That's our application. Now, there is an earlier version, ArcGIS Desktop, which is also called ArcMap, which is quite widely used, and we were teaching for many years, though Esri has moved now to their new product, ArcGIS Pro. So we're wanting to help you stay up to date with the most modern software. And throughout the class, we'll be talking about other products which compete or overlap or do the same thing as ArcGIS, because we want to support the concepts, not just one particular piece of software. And we're just using this software because it's the most common, and we have to pick something to base our teaching on. But it's not the only one, and we want you to understand the fundamentals to get the a good basic understanding of GIS and how it's applied. Now, the class mechanics is we have a lecture and lab each week. Now, the lecture is something that you can do online or in person, and it's on Monday nights from 4 to 6 in the Green Hall, 110 Green Hall. And the labs are on Mondays as well as Tuesday and Wednesday in Skoke 35. Now, if you're doing this online, you can watch the lectures online and do the lab exercises from home and never come in. That's fine. It's the same material, but we're following the structure of the online, we're following the structure of the in-person class just to give us some basis, some structure for our online session. Now, we have tests every couple of weeks, so you'd be reading the text in our textbook and then taking an exam every couple of weeks. We're trying to do 2 or 3 chapters each test. There'll be 4 tests, and then there's a final. Now, we want to do the readings in advance of the lectures and our labs so that you can help see how the concepts are being applied. And all these materials are available online. So we want you to do the readings and for that particular week ahead of time. Now, how do you figure out what's going on? Now, our class web page shows you week by week. So this is the first week, second week, and so on down the line. Now, the first week where it's a bye because of the university holiday, missing our key Monday date, so we really start the second week. That's when our classes and lab starts. So there's the videos here and then the lectures that you could watch if you're online, or you could come into the in-person. There's some general background information here in this column. Here's some information about pointing to the lab for that week, and here's what some of the assignments, what you would do for that particular week. Now, the syllabus is listed here, and the syllabus explains where the class is, the in-person part is, where I can be reached, the textbook's on. You should have received the syllabus in the welcome letter, but it's important you read through the syllabus for the grading policy and a lot of the details. So now from the main web page, there's also a lab page, and that's where the lab exercises are. And the lab page looks like this. And at the top of the lab page, I've got all the information for deciding how you use the software. And explaining the different pieces of it. You want to read through it, look through the little videos, and understand how you want to use it. Probably the most common would be to use the Citrix Apps to Go on your PC or your Mac at home. You just install this little program, and then you log in and do your work all online. And that probably is the easiest, but you can install it at home, and you can also come into the lab sessions, which cover the same material. And here's the link for the class webpage. Now, the mechanics. We have reading quizzes. So every week there's a reading quiz. And so the idea is that you do the readings before that week, and then there's a quiz. And then you learn the lab, and you go through that and apply that concept. That's sort of the concept. Now, there's quizzes, assignments. There's some forums where you could indicate your problems or chit-chat. You could also do that through email. And then there's online tests on Canvas. Now, as I said, there's online tests. There's 4-hour online tests throughout the class, covering a couple of chapters as we go through the class. And then there's a final. Now, the online tests are all through Canvas, and they really follow sort of the pattern of the reading quiz. So as you start seeing the reading quiz, you get a little idea of how the online tests are going to go. The online tests will be 1 hour each for the 4 regular tests, and the final will be 2 hours. And the online tests will be 3 chances, so you get 3 chances, and the test is open for 3 days, all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. 3 chances, and it's highest score. So, so the idea would be you take the test, take the first test as early as you can in the test window, then study your mistakes, and then take it again, and then study your mistakes and take it a third time, and hopefully you improve your score by spending more time with the material. Please don't take the 3 opportunities to test bing, bing, bing like a slot machine. It's not going to really help your scores because you're not learning anything new. The test questions come from a bank of 700 or 800 questions that are brought out randomly on each test. So they're covering they're similar material, but they're different questions. So it's really best if you take the test, see what you don't know, and then go back to the text, read it carefully, and move on. Now, the class is all run by a Canvas web page. So we've got the web page that runs all the information for the class, and the actual operations go on and the Canvas page. And here's the Canvas page where we've got the modules that show the assignments and quizzes and exams, and then your grades, as well as discussions. Now, in the various different modules, and again, they go week by week, here's, say, week 4, here's the reading quiz. You do the readings before week 4, and you would do the reading quiz. During that week, you'd be dropping off your work from the previous lab that you'd been working on from the previous week. There's also forum for the lab you're working on that week, and there could be an exam. And here's the link where to the Canvas exam for it. Remember, I said so the exams will be open for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 3 chances, highest score, and you'll want to understand that the book is the key. And if you can read the book carefully, understand the text carefully, do the questions at the back of the chapter, that you can do well on the exams. But it's based on the book. A thorough understanding of the book is what you need for the exams. Now, there's, as I said, there's drop boxes and forums. Now, in the Dropbox, when you're submitting work, when you're submitting your labs, and this is whether you're doing the lab in person or at home, you'll be creating PDFs, following the instructions that I give you in the lab, and the instructions are all on the web page. They're step-by-step cookbook instructions, and I've got videos that show you individually a little video of the various different steps if you've got questions. You'll be creating PDFs each time. So for a particular lab, you might have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 different PDFs, maps that you'll create as PDFs, and you'll submit them. You put them all in your Dropbox, and then you submit them all at once. Then they're recorded, then they're graded, and you can see them in your grade sheet. Now the labs are due on Friday night at midnight, a week after they've been assigned. So you really have almost 2 weeks to do a lab. But we have to penalize if you're not getting the labs in on time, because the worst thing you can do in the class is get behind. There's a lot of work in the class. It's a lot of new material for most students. And so there's a lot of time you have to put in to really get up to speed and get the concepts. And if, of course, they're very flexible. If there's some scheduling difficulties, something, let me know in advance. We can work things out. But we're trying to stay on our schedule and not get behind. That's the worst thing students do in the class is get behind. There's 13 labs. They're worth this percent, about 38%. The exams you can see, including the final, are about half the class. So it's a half lab and homework, and half exam. And that in the homework and in the labs, you just ask questions till you get it right, and I give you the answers. So it really should be, most of the non-test, direct test material, you should be able to get 100% on if you just put the time in and follow through the steps. So there's homework quizzes. Now there's some extra optional, extra credit work that I'll describe in a second. Now, in Canvas, you can look at your grades. As you turn in your work, as you take your tests, you'll see your grades being recorded. You can watch your work. You want to make sure that you're unchecking this box in this so that you're looking at your estimated grade based on the entire course rather than just the work you turned in. So if you're leaving this box checked, you're seeing what your percent is of the work you've turned in, which might very well be just 4 assignments or something. And so, so you want to be aware of this box and understanding to be watching what your final grade could be. Now, the question with the final grade gets a little cluttered with extra credit. If you do extra credit, it shows up in the grade book as you do it, and it gets graded, but it's not put into the total during the class. And so if you're trying to estimate what contribution your extra credit work is going to do for your grade during the class, you'll have to do this little calculation here. So run through the calculation to see what your extra credit would contribute to your final grade. At the end of the class, I'll be applying that through the Canvas process and adding those extra credit to your points. But if you're trying to predict it, you have to do this calculation. Our grading schedule, we can't give an A+, so we don't give an A-. So we sort of have quite a number of students that are getting 90 and above getting an A. So it's something, if you put the work in, you really can do well. But the important thing is you got to put the work in. It is something you got to plug away at. And you can see the percentages. As the vast majority seem to do quite well in the class if they put the time in. The students that do a little less well in the class are just not putting as much time in. It really is just putting the time in because it's really well laid out in the text and in the instructions. Now I've got some blogs you could take a look at on Evernote if you want to, where I keep all the things I'm reading and things that are going on in GIS if you're interested. Now this completes this video. Thank you very much.